an interpreter and translator for over 30 years, and her dedication to language education and innovation has been instrumental in developing modern teaching methodologies. Her talk will look at using the flipped learning technique in teaching Russian and Mongolian. So please welcome our first speaker of this session, Navcha Murray.
Good evening. Thank you very much for introducing me. I'm very happy to be joining this host of speakers who are celebrating the mother tongue. Thanks to my mother tongue, I've been able to earn my living in London. So if not me, who should be sitting, speaking on this important day, then I don't think anybody else will be speaking. Sembeno, I hope you guessed that it's Mongolian for hello. And although I was educated in Mongolian, I was educated in Russian, I will be talking about Mongolian, which is my mother tongue. So let me start sharing my screen with you. So let me remind you that the Mongolia is situated between Russia to the north and China to the south and to the west. And Mongolians are famous for our 13th century leader Genghis Khan, who established the largest land empire and who is still revered in Mongolia. This is the statue, a huge statue, not very far from the capital city, Ulaanbaatar. But the history of Mongolian language goes back to 8th, 9th century. So in the 8th century, the most ancient, the oldest Turkish writing was found in central Mongolia. And this script was later used in Uyghur script, the script that you're seeing, which goes from top to down. And this script, this language was used by Mongolians starting from 13th century onwards. This script is still used in Inner Mongolia, which is part of China. In fact, Mongolian language is spoken by about 7 million people. In Mongolia, we have less than 4 million people in the independent country of Mongolia, where I'm from. But it's also spoken in Inner Mongolia, as I said, in parts of China, and distinct, a little bit distant relatives of the Mongolian language are also spoken in Siberia, in Buryatia, and in Kalmyks area, which is in European Russia. So this language, as I said, is still used in Inner Mongolia, which implies it is not used in our country, but because in the mid-20th century, we introduced the Cyrillic alphabet. That was as a result of our alliance with the former Soviet Union. In fact, if you don't know, Mongolia was nominally the second socialist or communist country after the Soviet Union. And the introduction of the Cyrillic alphabet had a huge impact on our country. In fact, this was thanks to Tsindin Demdinsuren, our first linguist, who helped the transition from vertically written a script to transition to Cyrillic alphabet. In fact, he was forced to do it. He was arrested, he was imprisoned, he was repressed. So although the beginning sounds sad, if you compare the early 20th century Mongolia, where over 90 people were illiterate, by the end of 20th century, I'm talking about around 50 years, because of the provision of basic housing, basic free education, basic health, our human development index was on a par with Norwegians. Over 90 people were literate. And that was thanks to introduction to Cyrillic alphabet, because it opened the doors to the European knowledge through the gates of Russia. And one other thing, so in 1946, when we started using the Cyrillic alphabet, the old script, which I showed you, which was in use for over 1,000 years, was nominally banned. But lots of people cared for this script, including my father. I remember he used to participate in lots of international meetings, went abroad a lot. And when he came back, he always brought his notes written in this top-down script. And I think he took great pride in knowing that he was writing in his own script. And he infected me with his love. And when I was 10, this teaching of the script was banned almost. Nobody could speak. And as I said, the early 20th century, only less than 10% of people were literate who could read and write this script. So not many people knew this script. He taught me at home. And I'm very proud to say that, well, this is my father. Last summer, I saw him. Yeah, and I'm very proud to say that I'm able to use this beautiful script. And I have, as you can see, the little calligraphy on the bottom right corner of this slide. It's the form of art which I enjoy most. I'm not artistic at all. I cannot draw or anything, but this is the only form of art which I love, the calligraphy of old script. So now I'm a bit, this is a little bit about the history of Mongolian language. And I should also mention that around 1930s, before the mid-20th century, Mongolian language used a little bit of Latin script, but that was totally replaced by the introduction of the Cyrillic alphabet. And I said to you that Cyrillic alphabet opened the doors to the knowledge, which came through Russia from Europe. The scientists, in fact, in 1982, Mongolia sent our first person to space. But that huge jump in development was not only thanks to scientists, but also thanks to lots of women. And I'm saying this because the women took an important role in nomadic culture. Because if you think the men, when you're nomads and looking after the livestock, they go out looking after the livestock, but women remain at home. They run the whole household. They're in charge of economy, everything. And so the status of women in nomadic cultures is very high. And I remember one story. I became an interpreter, graduated university in 1995. And so it's actually exactly 30 years. And at that time, World Bank produced a report which said, like, how did Mongolia survive the harsh 90s, when the Soviet Union's subsidies collapsed? In fact, let me mention this. All this huge jump in Human Development Index, in provision of free housing, free health system, free education to all, this was all possible because of Soviet Union subsidies. And that was thanks to our clever leaders. They were really, really clever in obtaining all those subsidies to promote, to develop our country. But then in 1990s, Soviet Union collapsed, the subsidies stopped, and it was really hard. I remember in 1990s, I used to queue for a loaf of bread for half a day. It would be a long queue. And then you go in the shops and there's nothing on the shelves except salt. And the report of the World Bank, which I mentioned, said that Mongolia survived those harsh 1990s thanks to two factors. One was the livestock breeding. Of course, people went to countryside and they didn't stop. And secondly, thanks to women. What happened is that Mongolian women broke a record. For the first time in the world, a country which was, had high birth rates, it dropped to just to 1 point something. Basically, Mongolian women stopped giving birth. And it was possible because they were educated. And so although I said thank you to my dad for introducing me to old script, which enabled me to engage myself in such fantastic thing like Mongolian calligraphy art, I'm also thanking my mom and all women for their contribution to development of Mongolia. Okay, so I've been in business for 30 years, and I'm thinking like, so what is AI bringing it? I remember when I started interpreting, there used to be lots of really bad translations. You wouldn't believe it, that some of the things would be totally misunderstood because of the mistranslation. And when I'm looking now at AI, I think that that is probably at the moment is not possible, because lots of people, especially translators, who do written translation, they check. So thanks to AI, we have this jump of quality a little bit. That's I'm saying this with authority, because I work as a verifier for PISA. I don't know if you've heard of a PISA program. So this is PISA measures 15-year-old skills and knowledge in reading, mathematics, and science all over the world. And to ensure that 15-year-olds in Thailand are checked on the same level of difficulty as 15-year-olds in Denmark or Russia or Mongolia, the materials go through a rigorous sequence of translation, checking, and verifying. And I'm a verifier. So like 8-9 years ago, when Mongolia was taking part in the first of its own PISA tests, I had to verify a text which was translated by 2 independent translators, and then it was combined by another. And at the third stage, at my step, I also used to come with really bad translation. So, but now with the second flow of PISA material, because AI is available, I don't come across such bad translations. So I want to say, hey, thanks to AI, the quality of translation is improving. But of course, it is hitting hard on us as translators. My experience is that if, say, a year or 2 years ago, I would be given 10,000 words, I would be given a week, at least a week's time to do it. I'll be paid, a week's work, payment. Now, I'm only given 1 day, and we're talking about 10,000 words. And basically AI, although I'm saying it's good because it's bringing quality, but it's killing my business. So I will not be paid 7 days work. I'm only paid 1 day work, the payment. And also I'm not learning, because when 30 years ago when we started, I did work in all sorts of sectors, you name it, Mongolian transport sector, urban services. By urban services, I mean solid waste disposal, water supplies, all these. They all had to be renovated because we were coming out of the centrally planned economic style of Soviet Union imposed economy into a market economy. So everything had to change. And when I was doing translation then, I really had to learn things. For example, in the energy sector, which was funded by USAID, they were creating a new grid code. Grid code is basically rules by which the power plants or companies who operate in energy sector cooperate with each other. And in order to translate it, I need to understand what the rules were. So I had to go to visit my uncle who worked in a power plant. I had to learn lots of things to translate the grid code, and I did enjoy my work because of that, because I really had to learn from people from all sorts of walks of life. That was one benefit for me from my profession. But now, if I'm given 10,000 words for 1 day, and all I'm asked to do is to check that it's correct and to make sure it doesn't sound like, sometimes AI can sound rather too formal or too chatty. And so to make sure that it doesn't sound either way, but it sounds properly, I'm only doing mechanical checking. I'm not learning anything. So I think the profession is changing. It is not probably doesn't concern interpreting as much, because in order to, when I do simultaneous translation, I really have to learn the material. I really have to prepare to understand what's going on. But written translation, AI is really affecting. Basically, it's not asking me to understand what I'm translating. It's just basically asking, this is what it says in Mongolian, does it say this in English? And so, because neural translation machines, you know, the latest ones are just becoming available, I can't say for sure that they're really going to kill my business forever and I will never get anything. I cannot say that. But it was interesting for me when I was preparing for the speech. I looked at the development of machine translation, and it dates back to 1950s. I was very surprised. But then, listen, the other day I was reading memoirs of Russian journalists who traveled to US in 1920s, and they were saying, oh, we've discovered this fantastic thing like dishwasher. And I thought, dishwasher 100 years ago, I didn't think they were so old, you know. So from my Mongolian perspective, dishwashers maybe 20 years old, I don't know, maybe 10 years old. I haven't been myself using it for so long. So I was surprised that machine translation started way back in 1954. Still, I've overheard my previous speakers say that AI is not going to replace humans, and I really hope they don't, because it will be a shame, because every translator brings a little bit of their own experience into their work, and that's what makes, I think, translation unique. Living in London, I had the privilege of watching Shakespeare's King Lear in the BFI, British Film Institute, translated by Boris Pasternak, a Russian translator. And that is really, really remarkable. So I think, I really hope that AI is not going to replace humans. I'm not sure about the timing. Just a moment. Am I running? Okay.
You've got a couple of minutes.
That's good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So I think we will still be in business, and I'll be very happy to answer your questions. So this is the photo of our first linguist who introduced the Cyrillic alphabet to Mongolians, and this is the famous poem about Mongolia. And about flipped learning project. So this is, I'm sorry, I don't have time now to show it, but I around 7-8 years ago, I created this flipped learning project. I will leave the website link on the chat so you can look at it. It enables learners to acquire knowledge at their own pace because the material is given well in advance of the lesson, which delivers this new topic, and then it enables active participation of all learners, regardless of their needs. I apologize that I haven't had time to much talk about flipped learning, but if 8 years ago when I introduced it to CityLit, it was new. Now I think it's mainstream in many educational organizations. So I hope many of the people who joined know about this. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much for your talk. That was absolutely fascinating. And I'm also sorry that you couldn't talk more about the flip learning technique. But what you did say was that I was to use some Gen Z lingo. I was locked in. I I was very focused. So we do have a question. So AI is decreasing jobs for interpreters and translators. What about for rare languages? Do you see AI taking over from you?
I am impressed with AI. So Google Translate, when it comes up with, I mean, if 3-4 years ago, I was horrified by what Google Translate would come up with Mongolian. Now it's not the case. The quality is quite good. As I said, it might completely erase translators. I don't know. I hope it doesn't happen. But interpreting will be difficult, I think, because you need interpreters to know the subject, to understand, to say. But I think for translators, there is a risk of, well, not only risk, in my case, it's a reality that my job has shrunk.
And just very quickly, when you were given the translation to be carried out for less time, was it AI generated for you to review?
I think so. I think because no human can produce 10,000 words in a single day. Yeah.
Thank you so much for speaking today and for sharing so much wonderful information about Mongolian with us. I'm sure everybody learned a lot because it's not a language that is spoken about enough.
Yeah,
So
thank you so
thank
much
you.
for inviting me.
Thank you.